Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the podcast today. Today's show is going to be about the NFL trade deadline, and I'm going to talk about some stuff with the game from Monday night against the Cardinals, where my Dallas Cowboys took on the Arizona Cardinals. Yes, I wanted to talk about this roughly yesterday, but I had an action-packed schedule yesterday, so I was not able to get on the pod and talk with you about my thoughts from the game on Monday night. So we're going to get into that. And of course, I'm going to give my perspective on yesterday's trade deadline because my Dallas Cowboys had some moves and a lot of people had many things to say about what the Cowboys did. And I am going to debunk and unpack all of my thoughts when it relates to that. I have no notes. I've literally been super busy. It was pretty tight if I was going to be able to even get this show in today. It took me 2 hours to just prep because there was so much that I wanted to do. Messing with some new tools as well. So I'm ready. I'm ready to unpack my thoughts. But before we get into all that, please make sure to hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. Drop a like, share the pod with your friends and family, and check out my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It is not up to date. I want to say I'm probably 15 episodes behind. But I will be getting that ready for you guys in the near future. But now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's show. If you were not aware, my Dallas Cowboys got absolutely drenched by the Arizona Cardinals. It was a super embarrassing performance. And there's a bigger question that I want to answer for the latter part, but we're going to go to the analysis of everything. Is the Cowboys season over? I will answer that question in a minute. But let's just go ahead and talk about pretty much everything that happened in this game. From the Dallas Cowboys' point of view, Dak Prescott did not look good. The O-line did not play well. Calais Campbell, Zach Collins, Montez Sweat, that whole front, or is it not Montez Sweat, but Sweat, Josh Sweat, he did whatever he wanted to do and got in the backfield with Dak Prescott. Walter Nolan, the rookie defensive tackle, he made his presence felt on Monday night as well. So the offense wasn't good. And on top of that, defensively, the Dallas Cowboys actually got somewhat of a pass rush. I think they sacked Jacoby Brissett 5 times. But they couldn't give up the big play. Marvin Harrison was absolutely cooking the Dallas Cowboys defense all night, specifically in the first half. I want to say he had 6 catches in the first half. Marvin Harrison, he had 7 catches for 96 yards and 1 touchdown. He absolutely broke, and I mean broke, DaRon Bland's ankles on the goal line. He got fooled and clowned. CeeDee Lamb even had an opinion on that. He over making faces and gestures on the sideline after it happened. And not on top of that, ESPN was there. But I'll discuss that later on in the latter segment of this pod. So that is everything that happened. All in one bunch with this game against the Dallas Cowboys. Is the Dallas Cowboys season over? Absolutely. You are currently 3-5-1. You are roughly 3 games away from the division. Maybe 2.5, depending on wherever that tiebreaker leads. Your schedule is about to get absolutely brutal after you face the Raiders coming off the bye. And let's just face it, the ball club's not good. It really isn't. This is not a good football team. I told you guys earlier in the season, and I told everybody this, it is super hard to not play complimentary football and expect to win games week in and week out. It's hard to go on a winning streak. You cannot expect Dak Prescott and this offense to have a light show week in and week out. 1 week, they're not going to have it. Brian Schottenheimer and everybody under the helm, 1 game, they may not have the signature sauce. And guess what? It happened on Monday night. The offense could not click. They could not they ran the ball relatively well, but they got so behind in the game that they couldn't establish the run game. George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb made a few plays here or there, but it felt like they didn't have a factor in the game. Neither did Jake Ferguson. A lot of these targets are just empty calories. Kevontae Turpin had a multitude of drops. And ultimately, Dak Prescott, he was not comfortable. The offensive line could not block. Terrence Steele came into the game. He got on the injury report very late with a migraine, and he still ended up playing. But Lord, Josh Sweat, whoever was lined up over there against him, was beating him like a Cherokee drum. Tyler Guyton, he was hit or miss. He would win a rep, and then he would just absolutely get demolished in another rep. Tyler Smith didn't have a good day. There was multiple, specifically there at the end of the game. Walter Nolan put this little hand movement on him and got to Dak Prescott, and it killed the 2-minute drive when they were down 10. So our all-pro, Pro Bowl guard didn't even have a good day either. And don't even get me started with the defense. Jacoby Brissett did whatever he wanted to do. He was 21 for 31, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a quarterback rating of only 53, but he had a passer rating of 115. That lets you know how efficient he was throwing the football. And, of course, they were able to run the ball. They averaged 5.6 yards a carry. It was just absolute embarrassment for the Dallas Cowboys on all fronts. Dallas Cowboys couldn't get off the field. There were multiple instances when, shout out to Mr. Donovan Ezaraku, our future, he was our second-round draft pick in the 2025 draft. He made some plays. He was able to get to the quarterback. But when they got the sacks, got the third and longs and things of that nature, they couldn't get a stop. They couldn't even manufacture a stop. And that was just super frustrating. And now that is the ultimate question. Is the Cowboys season over? Yes. I was going to argue this before the trade deadline happened, and they did make some trades, and we're going to talk about it later. But there's no trade that they could have made that was going to save them the season. There's no point. I didn't even want them to trade a rental. Thank gosh they didn't, and we'll discuss that later. But the Dallas Cowboys are just done. They came into the season with Micah Parsons waning, that whole situation waning over their heads, and Micah Parsons got traded a week before the season started, but the week before your first game. And for Brian Schottenheimer, and even as much as he's been terrible this year, even Matt Eberflus, that is just a tough hole to come out of. You establish this whole game plan for your team, and 1 week before the season starts, it just changes at the snap of the fingers. The defense is not good. They ranked second to last or last on every category across the board in the NFL. They do not have players. When you look across this defense, when you watched them on Monday night, and everybody in America got to see them, they're not good. Outside of Donovan Ezaraku, he is your only bright spot. Deron Bland, he got absolutely murdered on Monday night. He couldn't guard anybody. Marvin Harrison was giving him fits. Marvin Harrison had a coming out party on Monday night. And there were reports going into Monday night about Marvin Harrison's dad, having issues with the offense here or there and things of that nature. I bet you he didn't have any problems with the offense on Monday night and with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback, because his son was eating. And Deron Bland, after all the money that we gave him, he looked absolutely horrible on Monday night. I think he's more of a slot guy than your outside guy, but they are so beat up at corner that Deron Bland has absolutely no choice but to play corner. Don't get me started with the safeties. I think Wanye Thomas is pretty good. He can't be like he's not your star stud safety, but I can think if you put him if you get a good move in the draft and put him with a high-quality safety, maybe like a guy like Caleb Downs, I think Wanya Thomas is a viable piece. I think he can play pretty good defense. But even when Donovan Wilson comes back, he's terrible. Marquez Bell, he got put on a highlight tape on Monday night. He couldn't cover anybody. Trey McBride was giving him the work. He can't do anything either. He's terrible. So they need guys all across the defense. This team is just all flat out in every area not good enough. So the Dallas Cowboys season is over. It was over roughly 4 or 5 weeks ago, in my opinion. I didn't see this team going anywhere. They fooled us with the game with the Packers. And maybe in the game with the game against the Commanders, they fooled me because how well the defense played. And they played complimentary football. But in a day like Monday night, when you saw that the offense didn't have it, your defense couldn't muster up any stops. I mean, they mustered up some stops, but it felt like the game was out of reach. The score was only 27-17, but it felt like the Cardinals could have scored almost 40. That's how far it felt like the Cowboys were from winning that game. And don't even get me started with all the turnovers, the fumbles, the offense having to press and go for it on fourth down and couldn't convert when the smarter option, if you had a reliable defense, would have been to kick the field goal, get the points. So it's just it was an all-around bad situation on Monday night. It was embarrassing. And I told everybody going into Monday night, and I said it on Monday's show on Monday afternoon, I was like, the Cardinals are not pushovers. This is a pretty good ball club. They have 5 losses. They started out the season 2-0. They've had one embarrassing loss against the Tennessee Titans. But they've lost close games. If I remember correctly, their 5 losses has accumulated with a tally of only 13 points. They're losing close games. And historically, the Cardinals have the Cowboys number. Even if I thought Kyler Murray was going to play, but Kyler Murray seen a lot of success against Dallas. So I didn't, and I thought the Cowboys could have won this because I was betting on the offense. I knew the defense weren't going to show up. But Jacoby Brissett was able to do similar of Kyler Murray and dominate the Cowboys. I thought the Cardinals looked pretty good. They look good defensively. I think they got a lot of good players. I think the roster is pretty underrated. I think the roster is all around the board is better than what the Dallas Cowboys have. Maybe not offensively, but on the culmination of defense, that defensive line was humming against the Dallas Cowboys, and they were flying across everywhere on defense. And I thought Jacoby Brissett threw the ball pretty well. He had a lot of command. He took some bad sacks there at the end of the game, and it felt like, you know, the thing with the Arizona Cardinals all year, that they have been choking away these games, and it felt like that was fixing to happen again there near the end of the game. But Javonte Williams, they get a costly fumble, and that was that. But here is my big problem with the Dallas Cowboys. And, you know, Jerry Jones discussed it on Stephen A's podcast because Stephen A himself asked Jerry Jones this question. But it was my problem with the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of this probably is the Cowboys' fault because ESPN had to get, you know, the okay to be there. The Dallas Cowboys hosted ESPN and First Take in Arlington on Monday. They hosted the Stephen A. Smith Show. They hosted Monday Night Countdown, which, you know, Monday Night Countdown is normal. But it felt like an ESPN festival, and it felt like a party on Monday. Stephen A. Smith was in the booth with Stephen A. Now, Stephen A. gave more context to that on First Take yesterday, saying that, you know, he wasn't in the booth, in the suite the whole time with Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones asked him to come up there just for a quick hello, and that was it. They were not there that long. But it's just the idea of things. The Dallas Cowboys draw too much attention to themselves, and that was part of the reason why I think they lost on Monday. You had ESPN there. You had Monday Night Countdown, First Take, all that. That is a lot of motivation for the Cardinals. It was Dallas this, Dallas this, Dallas this, Dallas that. It was nothing about the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals were watching. They were paying attention. They're just like us off the field. They consume media. And all you were hearing about was the Dallas Cowboys. You know, what are they going to do after this game once they get this win and go on a bye? Can they go on a run for the playoffs? all these storylines, but nobody was talking about the Arizona Cardinals. And it showed on the field. It felt like the Cardinals played with a chip on their shoulder. It felt like they had nothing to lose. And I think that is a external factor for the reason why the Dallas Cowboys lost this game. You can disagree with me, but I think it is the cold-hearted truth. And I have a huge problem with that. I have a problem with Jerry Jones going on a radio show with Stephen A. Smith. I have a problem with Michael Irvin and everybody else going on TV on First Take. It's just too much distractions. That's just my personal opinion. I just don't think it's good for business. For winning football games. If it's good for business, if you want publicity and for entertainment purposes to keep everybody, locked in on the season, fine, go ahead. Knock yourself out. But if you're an organization who is prioritizing winning, it's just not a good look. I'm not a fan. And they talked about it yesterday on First Take when they talked about Michael Irvin and DeMarcus Ware. They said they know about Jerry Jones, and this stuff never affects the players. I know it may not affect the players on your team, but it affects the players on others. I felt like the Arizona Cardinals got out there and they heard all the noise and they went out there and played phenomenal football because they had that motivation to embarrass the Dallas Cowboys. That is all I'm going to say about that. I don't want to go into more detail about this game. I'm sick of talking about it. It's upsetting that the Dallas Cowboys dropped that game to the Arizona Cardinals, but it is where we're at with the Dallas Cowboys. This is their reality. They're not a good football team, and we'll talk about the picks later on. But hopefully they can get a top 10 pick and we can revolutionize this defense, keep George Pickens back in the future, and we can run it back next year. But this year, it is absolutely done. All right. Now that we've got all of that out of the way, we can now go on and discuss all the trade stuff that happened yesterday in the trade deadline. I got a lot to talk about. Again, these are things that I have not written up. This is off the cuff, off my brain. All that I'm talking about, I do not have a script written up, which is something that I'm not used to doing. But we will do it anyways. Let's go ahead and get on to it. So if you were living under a rock yesterday, the trade deadline was super entertaining. My heart rate was kind of high. I was hoping Dallas were going to make some moves. They did get Logan Wilson via trade that morning. It was the trade that Jerry Jones was hitting around on Monday night and on the Stephen A. Smith show that morning, afternoon roughly. And he was saying that, we made a trade. We've already made one trade, but we're teasing a few others as well. He was saying that they were making calls. And they got this guy, Quinnen Williams, from the New York Jets. Now, between Logan Wilson and Quinnen Williams, were these moves a bad idea for Dallas? This is where I'm going to go on a healthy rant, okay? I have seen a lot of discourse regarding the Quinnen Williams pickup. A lot. We're going to go ahead and get to the trade compensation to understand why. The Jets will receive the Dallas Cowboys 2026 second round pick and the 2027 first round pick of the Cowboys, and they got defensive tackle Mazi Smith. Full disclosure on top of that, the Jets get the higher of the first round picks in 2027. So whoever's got the higher pick, Green Bay's or whatever, they get the higher pick. So, put that into perspective. Now, when I read this, Adam Schefter says the Jets get the higher of the Cowboys' 2 first-round picks in 2027. Their own or Green Bay's. So basically, whichever one, Dallas or whoever, they get the higher pick. A lot of people are saying around the media that this move from the Cowboys was idiotic. They didn't like the compensation. My father said the same thing. There were a lot of ESPN experts out there who who gave the Dallas Cowboys an F for picking up Quinnen Williams via trade. But I have this to say, and this is my personal opinion. I've watched this team. I cover them. I thought, in my personal opinion, this was a pretty good move for the Dallas Cowboys. I really did. I was happy about it. And we'll talk about Sauce later because, of course, Sauce got, traded to the Colts, and I'll give my perspective on that. But when I heard Sauce Gardner was available, I was telling my dad, like, okay, the Cowboys should probably get on the phone about Quinnen Williams. There was a report earlier, roughly, when the football season was getting kicked underway, that the Dallas Cowboys did reach out about Quinnen Williams, during the Micah Parsons trade. But, the Jets said they didn't even have the resources to give, the Dallas Cowboys in return for Micah Parsons. So when I saw that Sauce was available, I was sitting there like, okay, Dallas should 100% get on the phone about Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams has been a top 5 defensive tackle since he's been drafted. He's still young. He's 27. He will be 28 in December. But he is a guy that you can build your defense around. And this is the problem that I've been hearing about a lot of people saying this. Everybody's been sitting here like, why would you trade Micah Parsons, a guy who is 26-year-old, for an up-and-coming 28-year-old that is nowhere near the same person or type of player, caliber player, as Micah Parsons? I 100% get that. But do people really understand that the Dallas Cowboys, while Micah Parsons was a Dallas Cowboy and playing edge rush, they could not stop the run? They couldn't. When they got into the playoffs, what was the problem with the Dallas Cowboys year in, year out? They didn't have the meat and potatoes down below. So far this season, Kenny Clark, he's been doing his job. But outside of him, they still don't have another guy that can help stop and bolster the run. Other teams, they have guys on deck that can do it. But the Dallas Cowboys, if people pay attention and do great journalism and television and broadcasting, they would understand the Dallas Cowboys have struggled to draft defensive tackles. They have had the hardest time. They can't hit on one. Quinnen Williams is the best defensive tackle the Cowboys have had probably since Marcus Spears. And I don't even know how good Marcus Spears was. Everybody said he was pretty decent. But Quinnen Williams is the best defensive tackle the Cowboys have had in probably 20 years. It's been a very long time. A lot of people were bringing up David Irving. He was barely with the Cowboys. But they have struggled. Mozzie Smith, a guy that they got rid of in this trade, he is a player that struggled. He was a reach in the first round. So you're getting a guy in Quinnen Williams who is 28. He's already been an All-Pro one time. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. Or is it 4-time Pro Bowler? I can't 100% remember, but he's been to multiple Pro Bowls. A lot of people said he hasn't captured the magic the last 2-3 years like he did in 2022 when he was an All-Pro. But yeah, guess what? He was playing over there with the New York Jets and losing every year. And he was the main star for the ball club. So you get that. And the thing that I'm not understanding with people is this. The Dallas Cowboys still have their 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft. And the Dallas Cowboys, they're not going to win some games. I think the most wins they can get is probably 7, and that's pushing it. So you're going to have a number 10, 15 pick. That is good enough. They're going to get an edge rusher. And then they're going to draft another player. I think more than likely they definitely need to address safety or cornerback, preferably safety. My dream scenario, honest dream scenario, is they could draft Caleb Downs, surefy the safety position, because Caleb Downs, you can put him anywhere. You can even put him at slot safety sometimes in a formation. That's how good Caleb Downs is. You can go get somebody else, a good edge rusher. The guy from Miami, people loving the guys from Texas Tech. There are a lot of options. The idea that everybody, and this is another important thing that has really irked my nerves about this trade. People have always said this about Dallas. They never make moves. But when they make a move, everybody wants to find a reason to say, oh, this is a stupid move. Why did they do that? But yet in the same breath, for the past 4 weeks of the season, they were like, why won't Dallas make a move? They're not doing anything. Yes, I get the point that it's too late to make a move. My whole problem, if Jerry Jones made a move, was to try and make a move that would be a one-year rental, like a Trey Hendrickson or things of that nature. I would have had a huge problem with that. But guess what? Quinnen Williams, you're going to have him on your roster for this season and the 2 seasons after that. He's on the books for the next 2 years. So this ain't a one-year rental. This is a guy who you're going to build around. And Albert Beer, he's a reporter for NFL Network. He had some interesting things I don't even think he works for NFL Network. It might be another company. But Albert Beer had something, and he tweeted about it, and it was very interesting. I just read it a while ago. I hope I can find it, because he pretty much broke down the salary cap numbers for the trade between paying Micah Parsons and picking up Quinnen Williams. I can't quite find it. For some reason, I don't know where it's at. I wish I would have saved it. I don't know if he was replying to somebody. It should have been his original tweet. God, man, I wish I could find it. But I remember it in this sense. I can remember it from the top of my head. Quinnen Williams, you're paying him $8 million this year. You're paying him $20 next year and $20 after that. In Micah Parsons' contract, you're paying Micah Parsons $44 million this year, $44 next year, and $44 the year after that. So roughly, Albert Beer, the number 68 is popping in my head because I remember seeing it. From what I remember correctly, the Dallas Cowboys are going to save $68 million in the cap by having Quinnen Williams, on top of getting 2 stellar defensive players in the upcoming draft. So in place of Micah Parsons, you're saving $68 million in cap space, and you're getting an additional first round pick, because you're going to have your own, and then you get Green Bay's first round pick. So you get an additional first round pick on top of that. So you got Kenny Clark, Quinnen Williams, an extra first round pick that could be an edge rusher in a latter round, and then you get another first round pick. And you still get the picks next year. That's just good business, in my opinion. I thought the trade was pretty good. If the Eagles or anybody else in this matter would have made a trade like this, everybody would be praising it. All the Howie Roseman glaze. But since it's the Dallas Cowboys, people find a reason to have a problem with the trade. I think it's absolute bullcrap. I think it's absolute boomalarchy. This is the thing that upsets me with the media. Where is the consistency? Why is it that we always, year in, year out, want to hop down Jerry Jones' throat for not trying to make moves to make the roster better? I got to give credit to Jerry Jones, and I give Jerry Jones a lot of crap, because I still think if Jerry Jones managed the Micah Parsons situation better, we could have had Quinnen Williams earlier on in the season. We could still be primed to make a run. He's made his mistakes here and there that I don't agree with, but I agree with this one. And I know my dad's probably going to watch this at some point, and he's going to say, son, you are foolish in the head. But it's just my personal opinion. D-tackle, and credit to Chris Collinsworth, he said it. They're hard to come around. What has the Chiefs done? They've been to Super Bowls. Guess who they have in the middle? Chris Jones. Buffalo Bills, Ed Oliver. The Rams, Aaron Donald. That position is hard to find. And the Dallas Cowboys have struggled to find it. So instead of, hypothetically, we can get one in the draft. They did it with Mozzie Smith and it didn't work. I would rather go ahead and pay that first round pick and get Quinnen Williams. Because in this upcoming draft, Quinnen Williams is your second round pick. Quinnen Williams, and John Middlecoff said it, is going to be your best draft pick that you're going to get out of the whole second round. So I think this is smart business. But the Dallas Cowboys, they are under a lot of pressure to hit on those 2 draft picks coming up this year because they are going to be vital. You're going to have George Pickens some way, somehow, either by the franchise tag or you're going to re-sign him. You got Osa too, and you got Kenny Clark. Roughly, all 3 of those guys have a $20 million cap hit on the cap next year. So a lot of people are saying you are going to get rid of one of them. If you get rid of Kenny Clark, you're not going to get the $20 million cap hit. So I think there might be a possibility that they could get rid of Kenny Clark. I would probably rather get rid of Osa. Osa has not been good this year. But, that's a decision we'll make down the road. But you're going to have Quinnen Williams. Trayvon Diggs is going to get healthy. DaRon Bland is going to get healthy. Sharon Revel, a guy who everybody's been high on at cornerback, he has a chance to get healthy and be great as well. You do that. Donovan Ezeraku, he's been a bright spot so far for your defense. You get him established going into year 2. You draft you another edge rusher. And then you can draft a DB. And then at linebacker, you have Logan Wilson and Demarion Overshawn. Look, Logan Wilson, I think he can be good. He's not a great player, but he can be good alongside Overshawn. And you still have them younger guys that you can still develop to be pretty good linebackers. So I love this trade for Dallas. I love it for the future for Dallas. I think this is an absolute win. If you disagree with me, I don't care. That's just my personal thoughts and opinions on that. That is pretty much all I have regarding about this trade. I think it's the right trade. And everybody who's saying, why would Jerry Jones do this? I just got done listening to Colin McIntyre on The Herd right before I got ready to get ready and hop on the mic for today's show. The number one thing everyone was saying, why would Jerry make this move? You're not going to make the playoffs. Idiots. We have him for the next 2 years. And we still have 2 draft picks coming up this year. And we have a lot of money in cap space to sign free agents. This lets you know, some media doesn't do their homework. And it really shows. Bill Barnwell, there's a whole lot of people giving the Cowboys an F for this trade. Do people really understand that if Micah Parsons was on this roster, they wouldn't be doing anything? I like the idea of possibly getting Micah Parsons. You could have saved and kept him, but there's no way you're able to get Quinnen Williams and Micah Parsons on the same payroll with CD and Dak. It just can't happen. I would rather, instead of not having George Pickens and not having Quinnen Williams, I think the scenario of having Dak, CD, and Pickens alongside Quinnen Williams, your 2 future first-round draft picks, is a better option than just CD, Dak, Micah, and your just other draft pick. Better business to me. That gets me hyped up. That segment there got me super hyped up because, man, when I tell you guys, I have been ecstatic. Like, I've been super ecstatic when I got ready to talk about these topics because it has been so just frustrating listening to everyone in the media talk about the Dallas Cowboys. It really has been frustrating. So let's go ahead and move on to our next topic. Now, this is one that I really have a huge opinion on as well. This trade here was easily the one that was the shocker of yesterday. I was in class, I was waiting around to see what the moves and the trades were going to be. And this was the trade that pretty much brought the house down in the NFL yesterday. So if you did not know or were living under a rock, the Colts yesterday traded for Sauce Gardner. Per Adam Schefter. I know it's a little cut off there. Sorry about that. I'm still trying to work the kinks out on this thing. But the Colts traded 2 first-round picks the Colts traded 2 first-round picks and Adonai Mitchell in return for Sauce Gardner. That was the Jets' 2026 first-round pick and a 2027 first-round pick. Now, this one will shock you, okay? We're talking about a guy in Sauce Gardner. Was this a good deal for the Colts? I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When I first saw this and I sent it to my dad, I was like, Dad, I'm going to be honest with you. This price for me was a little too steep. You got to think. The Green Bay Packers traded 2 first-round picks for Micah Parsons and a player. This is the equivalent of the Micah Parsons trade. And this isn't even for an edge rusher or a quarterback. This is a cornerback. A cornerback in Sauce Gardner, who after his first 2 years, he's not been good. A lot of that may have to do with the environment of the Jets. It's the same argument I had about Quinnen Williams. But Quinnen Williams has actually been pretty decent. But Sauce Gardner has been pretty bad. The stigma around the league was, and still is, when they start calling him for holding and pass interference, he's not going to be good. He can't tackle, and he's slow, and he's tall. And it has shown in his film, and it has shown in his play, because he's been getting beat a lot. When the Cowboys played the Jets earlier in the season, I got a pretty good look at Sauce Gardner. And George Pickens was giving him the business. Absolutely. So that's something to think about as the Dallas Cowboys. Oh, sorry. That is something to think about. Not Dallas Cowboys. That is something to think about if you were, trading for a player like Sauce Gardner. And I loved it from the Jets' point of view. And we'll talk about the Jets in the future because I just got a specific segment just for the Jets. But if you're the Colts, you're making this move if you absolutely feel like Sauce Gardner is going to get you over the top. Now, mind you, Tre'Davious Ward is on this roster. He's currently out right now with a concussion that he sustained in warm-ups. I cannot remember roughly when it happened. I could ask Siri right quick, but I'm not going to do that. But they still have Kenny Moore as well. So this is a DB room that could have got better. They did sign Xavier Howard. He ended up retiring. But I've watched the Colts, so you can say that their weakest part of their defense is their defensive backfield. Because that defensive front is very good. Them linebackers, Zaire Franklin, he's really good as well. But the only thing, because due to injury, was their defensive back room. I thought they probably would have been better off getting a DB from free agency. Asante Samuel's available. Stephon Gilmore's still available. But man, when you say 2 first-round picks, and his contract is not cheap. So for the next 2 years, you're going to owe him $20 million. This isn't a cheap investment. And this is for a cornerback who has not played well. The only way that I envision the Colts getting proper return on investment is if the Colts get to the AFC Championship game and have a shot to get to the Super Bowl. Because getting a guy like Sauce Gardner for 2 first-round picks, you're saying, okay, you're Chris Ballard. You're a guy who's been on the firing block for the Colts the last couple of years because you ain't been able to find a quarterback. So So Daniel Jones come along under Shane Steichen. I think you hired a great head coach. And Jim Irsay and the whole organization, they've done a phenomenal job this year just managing the team. So you're essentially saying, okay, we have Daniel Jones. I think we have our quarterback. We have Jonathan Taylor. The offense is playing well. You have Pierce. You have Pittman. You have Downs. You have Tyler Warren, the stud tight end. He's been playing great football this year for them. Great O-line as well. That's part of the reason why Daniel Jones has been playing great. And again, I already talked about the defense a while ago. The defense is really good. So you're putting all your chips into the table by saying, okay, we feel like we can win a Super Bowl. We are one piece away. And that piece that we need is a player like Sauce Gardner. This was a super shocking trade for me. Me personally, if I'm a Colts fan, I'm like, ugh. I like the idea of it, but I think just 2 first-round picks is too steep. I maybe would have done a second. I would have done 1 first, and then maybe a second, and then a player. I cannot give up 2 first-round picks for Sauce Gardner. Not with his struggles, but you're hoping with Lou Anarumo, a defense coordinator for the Colts. He's been doing pretty good over there. Hopefully he can channel the energy that Robert Saleh was able to get out of Sauce Gardner early on in his career. That's what you're betting on. Chris Ballard and everybody who probably signed off. The Irsay family and the girl, they had to sign off on this. Chris Ballard just cannot make a reckless move like this and it not roll across the front desk of the Irsay family. So they pretty much signed off on this. If you're Daniel Jones, you're probably confident about this and you feel great about this because they're saying, okay, Daniel Jones, we believe in you. We feel like you are the missing piece. Well, you are the piece to get us to the Super Bowl. And we felt like getting Sauce Gardner was the final chess piece for us achieving the goal of winning a championship. So they believe in you. And that is a good motivator for you to go out there and play well if you're Daniel Jones. But man, just from a pure business perspective, I feel like this was just a little too rich for me. When I saw this, I was like, for Sauce. And granted, Sauce has the capability to be a good player. He played pretty well his first 2 years. He's been a 2-time All-Pro. He was in the conversation for the best corner in the league. Let's not act like Sauce Gardner, from the totality of his career, is a bum. Okay, this is a good player. But if you're just basing his production, just pure production, from what he's done the last 2 years. They had a graphic up yesterday watching, I think it was on First Things First. He's given up a passer rating this year so far of 118. Pro Football Focus had him ranked like 71% so far. Like a C, that's a C- grade this year. He hasn't been horrible, but he ain't been great. So again, the return on investment for this trade, the Colts have, and I mean have, they have to get to the AFC Championship game. And I give credit to Chris Ballard in this sense. He's aggressive. He feels like they can win a championship, and the AFC's never been more wide open. The NFL itself has never been more wide open. So that is a reason why I can commend Chris Ballard today. But man, if this trade don't work out, whoo, Sauce, go do a job, son. You have the capabilities because that franchise in Indianapolis has invested a lot in you. So go do a job and get it done. All right. So now that we have discussed the 2 major trades, and we got another one that I want to talk about roughly here in a minute. But like I said, now that we've talked about the 2 Jets players, I want to talk about just the overall future of the New York Jets. Now that we've discussed it, they got a first-round pick for Quinnen Williams and Dallas Cowboys' second-round pick coming up in this year's draft. And then they got the 2 first-round picks from the Jets from the Colts for Sauce Gardner. The Jets have now accumulated approximately 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years, draft in the next 2 years. And the ultimate question that I thought about, and the ultimate question that came to my mind when I was writing up the script. Well, I don't have a script, but just writing up just thinking about the show. Will the Jets become a competent franchise in the coming years now that they've made this trade? And give a little graphic here. It's a little cut off, but these are the notable draft picks for the Jets in the next 2 years. They have a 2026 first round pick that is theirs. They have a 2026 first round pick that is Indianapolis's. They have a 2026 second round pick that is theirs. Then they have another second round pick that is Dallas's. And in 2027, they have 3 first round picks. That is a total of 5 first round picks in the next 2 years, alongside 2 first round picks. And I think maybe they got more second round picks in 2027. So that is the graphic for the Jets. And when you think about it, will the Jets become a competent franchise in the coming years? I don't know. I'm leaning more towards maybe. Because you got to think, they've tried this in multiple ways. They had Quinnen Williams and they had Sauce Gardner. They can never get the quarterback right. Sam Darnold didn't work out. Of course, Zach Wilson didn't work out. You traded for Aaron Rodgers. Last year, same defense that was pretty good. The first couple years with Zach Wilson when they were a top 5 unit and they were so bad offensively that nothing could happen. You had Garrett Wilson too. He's turned out to be a pretty great wide receiver. But it feels like the Jets still have not found an answer. Sam Darnold went up and left. He's played pretty good. And I think Sauce Gardner, it might be another stain on the Jets. If Sauce Gardner goes and plays well for the Colts, that's going to look bad on the Jets. And if Quinnen Williams looks great and can possibly win another All-Pro with the Dallas Cowboys, that's going to be a problem there. The Jets were even talking about the idea of getting rid of Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson. So they kept Breece Hall and Jermaine Johnson, and you keeping Garrett Wilson. So with those first couple first-round picks, you got to get the quarterback right. You got to get the coach right. Could Aaron Glenn be the answer? I hope so. I like the guy. I like what he did in Detroit, but it seemed pretty bad that his cohort over there in Chicago, he's being very successful as his first time as the head coach of the Bears. The Bears have a winning record. And you're the Jets, and you're sitting over here at roughly 1-7, and you're the number 1 overall pick right now in the draft. I like the character of Aaron Glenn. They played some tough games. Week 1, Justin Fields has played well, but Justin Fields is not the answer. You've played in some close games. I think Aaron Glenn is a guy that you can possibly move forward with. I think so. You got rid of 2 guys in Williams and Gardner. You were telling yourself your offense is so bad, you're not going anywhere. So let's get these first round picks, beef up the O-line. I think they hit on a draft pick with the guy from Iowa, the tackle. He's been playing pretty good. Vera Tucker's a guy who's been hurt. He's had too many injuries, so you want to look for his replacement because he can't stay on the football field. Shore up the O-line. And another thing that if I'm the Jets, I got to be cautious about, I do not love the draft prospects right now at quarterback. I'm not 100% sold. People, and they discussed it earlier on Get Up. They've had the college football analysts on TV, and they're talking and saying that Ty Simpson from Alabama is like the best quarterback in the draft, and I was sitting there like, are you serious? And I've watched Ty Simpson. I don't love him. I think he's good, but nothing screams future starting franchise quarterback when I watch Ty Simpson. And the kid Mendoza, they saying he's pretty good, but he's got a lot of stuff to work on. And he's got no choice but to come out of college. They talk about Dante Moore, Mateer. Those guys have the option to stay in college. They still have another year. Who knows if they're going to come out? You got Cade Klubnik. We know he's not good. Lenore Sellers, he's got another year of eligibility as well. So he might stay. So if you're the Jets, I don't know about this quarterback draft coming up. I mean, I would more than likely be in the business of trading for a veteran quarterback. I know you tried it with Aaron Rodgers, but I'm talking about a very young quarterback. I want to do like Seattle did. I would rather use those first-round picks like you did with Quinnen Williams and Sauce Gardner. Reset the deck. You got Jermaine Johnson. You still got Breece Hall. Just follow that same formula. Draft you another defensive back, elite safety. Do something like that and beef up that O-line and then use them picks. Trade for a veteran quarterback. It could be Kyler Murray. Yeah, I don't know if you're going to want Kyler Murray because you kind of get in that same play style with Justin Fields, and it seemed to not have worked out. That's just an idea that you can throw along that I can think of from the top of my head. But it ultimately goes down to just if the Jets are going to be successful, I really think it has to do from the ownership all the way down. The Jets are not a great run for franchise. We know the problems that they've had with the turf, players getting hurt. We've had that problem. They haven't been to a AFC Championship game in 15 years, and before that, they haven't been relevant or a good team at all since Joe Namath. That was a long time ago. I mean, decades ago. Even since the AFC Championship game, the Jets have been a joke. All across the board. They have been every team in the NFL, whenever they play the Jets, that was pretty much essentially a get-right game. The Jets have been a laughingstock in the NFL. One of the worst franchises. This year, they even had high hopes for the Jets. They thought they could win 9, 10, 11 games. And we've seen what's happened with that. I just don't know. It starts with the ownership. It starts with who runs the team. We've seen that, they had a Sam Darnold. And now we've seen what Sam Darnold has been able to do. He's been able to flourish. So I don't think nothing gets better until something changes from the organizational. Like setting a good foundation for the organization. It starts at the top. That's why the teams like the Chiefs and the Eagles, they've been successful because from the top all the way down to the players, everything is efficient. This franchise, from the ownership all the way down, is not efficient at all. You had your owner in Woody Johnson roughly a couple of weeks ago talking pure tea crap about your starting quarterback in Justin Fields in front of New York media. Not a recipe for success. So if you ask me, will these draft picks turn into a brighter future for the Jets? I say no. Draft picks can only do you so much. They had Quinnen Williams. They had Sauce Gardner. They've had Garrett Wilson. They've had all these pieces. You had a top 5 defense at one point. You ain't even got Aaron Rodgers with it. But it seems like nothing can ever go in unison. When you had Aaron Rodgers and you still had that top 5 defense, you didn't have the right coaching staff. You didn't have the right coaches. You had Woody Johnson and everything else. You had a bad GM. Like, there's just a multitude of things that were wrong with the Jets. So, you have the capital. You have a lot of, you're resetting the deck. New GM. You're getting rid of them contracts that you just signed. You're getting rid of one that you just signed to Sauce Gardner. So you're investing in Breece Hall. You're invested into Garrett Wilson and Jermaine Johnson. So in order for the Jets to be successful, they got to get competent from the top. And if I'm a Jets fan, I'm upset because this is a rebuild of a number of rebuilds that you've already been through. But it's needed. I didn't see this franchise going anywhere with what they had. And, you get assurance. I like what the Jets done overall in the trade deadline. I mean, I think they were smart for not getting rid of Breece Hall. I think he's a great prospect and great player. And it shores up your offense. Now, defensively, I would have rather kept Quinnen Williams. That would have still been my stepping stone. That's my bridge. I would have been fine getting rid of Sauce because you can't pass up 2 first-round picks. But yeah, the Jets, something's got to change organizationally and culturally until that becomes a great organization. All right. I'm dealing with a sickness, so my mouth's getting a little dry. The pod's already been almost an hour. So these next couple of topics, I am about to rip these out. You know, I only got one more topic left, roughly. So I am about to rip this topic, and the next one's going to be really short too. So I'm going to rip this one really fast. And then we are going to get out of here. I'm getting the next segment ready. All right. So now I think we should be good to go. And yes, we are. Whoo! My throat is super dry. Another trade that happened that I want to discuss, because it is a team that I have talked about on numerous occasions because I love the team. I love watching them play. And yes, I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks. This is a team that I have enjoyed to watch. I think they're a really good team. And they have the chance to contend for a Super Bowl. So if you were living under a rock, they traded for Rasheed Shaheed. Yes, I said the name right. Usually I say Shaheed, but it's Rasheed Shaheed. I got that right. So the trade compensation for Rasheed Shaheed, per Adam Schefter, the Seahawks are sending a 2026 4th and 5th round pick to the Saints in exchange for wide receiver Rasheed Shaheed. Man, the GM for the Seattle Seahawks, he just continues to just dominate. If Howie Roseman is up here, and let me go to full screen. If Howie Roseman is up here when it comes to GMs, the GM for Seattle has got to be like right here. Just a couple notches up under him. Maybe just one notch up under him. Because this guy here has done a phenomenal job managing the Seahawks, finding talent, and getting a good product out on the field. This team in Seattle is great. I love the running back. The offensive line's good. JSN, even though I had questions, and I am an Ohio State guy, but he's been really good this year, and he's been in the conversation for the top 3 wide receiver in the league. He's about to have 1,000 yards coming up in week 10. And after that, he has 7 more games to play. So he is sniffing 2,000 territory. He can do it. That may not be the case now that they got Shaheed, because, Shaheed's going to take away some of the juice from JSN. But JSN has the ability to get 2,000 yards. And I've talked about this part of the Seattle the most. I love their defense. I think their defense is absolutely phenomenal across the board. And they've hit on a lot of draft picks. They were even shopping Tariq Woolen. They didn't end up trading him, which I think was smart. I wouldn't be in the business of trading away a corner like Tariq Woolen. Maybe next year, but not right now. But you didn't trade Tariq Woolen, and you were shopping him because you're like, hey, we already got depth. We're trading away a guy who made a Pro Bowl in his rookie year. What other franchise is going to do that? That is crazy to me, and that's how good the Seattle Seahawks are. Are Seattle true contenders with Rasheed Shaheed? I say absolutely. This is a move, and we'll talk about it later. This is a move that I wanted the Bills to make, because they need a wide receiver, and they need another receiver outside of Keon Coleman, period. But I feel like a guy like Rasheed Shaheed was like the missing piece for the Buffalo Bills. But now he goes to Seattle. Seattle outside of JSN, they have a pretty good, the guy Torton, I think is his name. Let me make sure. I think that is his name. He was actually a rookie this year. Let me make sure. Yeah. You have Torrey Horton, not Torton, but this Horton. You have Torrey Horton. He's been pretty good. He caught 2 touchdown passes the other day. You still have Cooper Kupp. He's been dealing with an injury. He actually did not play on Sunday night against the Commanders. And now you add Shaheed. That is a guy that is a vertical threat. He is going to spread the field for this offense. He is another weapon that you have to worry about. So you have JSN, a guy that you can line up anywhere. You got Shaheed. He's been a return specialist. Rasheed, I think he's made a Pro Bowl, roughly. And I want to say maybe he made an All-Pro. Let me make sure. I don't want to tell no lies. I know he's made a Pro Bowl. Yeah, he has made an All-Pro. So Shaheed has made an All-Pro for being a return specialist, of course, not at the wide receiver position. But that is the type of dynamic that he can bring to this team. You know, he can beefing up the special teams. You can give him an end around on the offense. This guy is a person that is a gadget player. Same thing that you could say for a guy like Taysom Hill in New Orleans and with the Dallas Cowboys. He is your gadget player. Now, these type of guys, not a lot of teams have them. And the Saints said, you know what? We'll give them to you for a 4th and 5th round pick. Shaheed is definitely worth that. This is an A-plus trade for the Seattle Seahawks because the Seattle Seahawks, in my opinion, are contenders. And I've said it on Monday, and I'm going to reiterate it again. I think that if Sam Darnold shows up, Seattle will be in the NFC Championship game. I wholeheartedly believe that. In the NFC right now, I love the Rams and I love Seattle. Then I'll put the Eagles, and then I'll put the Packers. I don't trust the Packers because the Packers are too inconsistent. What I've seen from the Seahawks this year, I have seen for the most part consistency. And when we look at Seattle's schedule, they still have to play the Rams twice. You got to play Minnesota, and you're still going to play Indianapolis, and you still got to play San Francisco again. So you have some good, competent games coming up in the future. And you're going to get a good look at how well you're going to be going forward into the playoffs. So Shaheed is a guy and a gadget that you add to your offense, and that is going to make your team super efficient and another weapon and threat. This is A-plus organizational management by the GM. And it would not surprise me if Seattle is in the NFC Championship game. That is just me, and that is my personal opinion. A-plus move by Seattle. Again, I don't have a script written up like I usually do, so I'm thinking at the top of my head, do I really want to think about anything else or talk about anything else when it comes to this topic? I don't think I'm really hitting on anything. I think that's pretty much it. Seattle's good. This is a great move. There's not really much else that I can say about that topic. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, that is pretty much all that I have for you today. I just want to make some more short comments here regarding the trade deadline. I just want to talk about some stories that came out roughly after, the trade deadline. I'm not going to record or post a video about it because it's not really that important. But, I'm really disappointed that the Buffalo Bills did not get a wide receiver. Again, when I talked about Shaheed just a moment ago, I was saying, that is something that the Bills need. They need a vertical deep threat on the outside. They need another receiver that could help Josh Allen and get the Bills over the hump because the league is so wide open this year. The league's super wide open. And that's the reason why I think, and, now that we're discussing it, I'd forgot to talk about it, but I'll bring it up here. But Adam Schefter said it. And we'll see it here. There were 8 trades today, tied for the second most of any deadline going back to 1990. And there were 10 trades on November 1st, 2022. There were 18 total trades from October 1st to trade deadline day this season, tied with 2022 and 2024. The most in that time period in a time. I don't know what that final section says because it's cut off. My bad. I'm going to get better at doing the stuff, okay? I'm messing around with it just a little bit. I'm trying to give you guys some new features when it comes to prepping the show. But, that has pretty much been the trade deadline so far this season. And that is a true fact, and that's a testament to what I said earlier about the league's wide open. I feel like it's good business to do whatever you can to get the essential pieces you need to put your ball club over the hump. And I think the Bills not getting a wide receiver is a big negative for me. Josh Allen and them were able to get away from the Chiefs, but you saw with their offense, it was heavy James Cook and it was heavy tight end, not much production out of wide receiver. They can't really stretch the field. They have no vertical deep threat. Keon Coleman's good. He's just never turned out to the wide receiver they thought he could be. So if the Bills want to be successful, they're just going to have to continue to ride James Cook. And that sucks. Another thing, Kansas City, a lot of people were wanting them to get a running back. And they were throwing around the name Breece Hall for a 4th round pick, and I think that was the asking price from the Jets. Don't hate it. I think just spending a 4th round pick on a running back is just not good business. A running back that you're going to have to give a contract roughly, I think, next year or the year after that. Breece Hall's due a contract. It depends. If he was due a contract next year, I would say no. But if you could have got him for this year and next year, I probably would have said, okay, I would do that deal. So that just depends on where his contract is. So I don't know that from now. I'm not going to look it up. I'm not going to worry about it. It's not that big of a deal for my purposes. But you guys get my point. And that's my take on that when it comes to the running back. Obviously you're not going to get one through free agency. You got what you got. Pacheco's dealing with an injury. And Kareem Hunt, he's old. He really can't stretch the field. He can't. He's like your close down back, short yardage back. If you need a 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, he can get it. But if you're asking him to stretch the field like a Jahmyr Gibbs does, or any of these other running backs that can get up the field with a burst of speed and hit their head on the goalpost, that's not Kareem Hunt. So you're going to need Pacheco to get back healthy. I think they like what they got out of their running back 2, number 24. Don't know his name from the top of my head, but yeah. That's my thoughts with Chiefs. I saw something with the Broncos calling about Jalen Waddle. Miami was shopping Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. I saw some things with Minka Fitzpatrick and Jayden Waddle. Jalen Waddle was a target as well, so they thought he was available, and the Broncos obviously called about him, and the price was a little too steep. I think the asking price was roughly a 1st round pick. I would not give up a 1st round pick for Jalen Waddle. As much as I think Waddle's been a good player, I just don't think he's worth that much. So it's smart for the Broncos to do that. I think that would have been a good fit for the Broncos. I think Troy Franklin is cool. I don't love him. They got another pass catcher that they like too. That I think his number is 24 or whatever his number is, or 13. I can't remember from the top of my head, but he's a rookie. They like him too. So they got 4 solid receivers, and I feel like if you could have got your hands on Jalen Waddle, you're 7-2 if you're the Broncos. You're playing decent football, and your problem is the offense. Your defense is Super Bowl ready. So that is something I saw there. From the Dolphins standpoint, you shopped away Jalen Phillips. Pretty good move. And you kept Bradley Chubb. I would have probably, I think you could have kept Bradley Chubb. So the Eagles, they got Jalen Phillips. Good move for Philly. So those are my big storylines coming out of the trade deadline. Again, I don't have a script written up, so I'm thinking about this stuff from the top of my head. The 49ers were trying to make a move for Jermaine Johnson. That didn't come into fruition. That's pretty much all I can think of. Philly didn't make a big move. The Rams didn't make a move for a cornerback like a lot of people wanted them to. Or they might have made a trade for a cornerback. I may be wrong. Because I think there was a huge graphic that Diana Rossini had posted. Yep, here it is. The Rams did get a corner. I thought they did. So they got a guy from the Titans, Roger McCreary. The Patriots didn't make no moves either. A lot of fans were upset about that. the Ravens made a couple of moves. They got this nice little edge rusher from. They did get rid of Owe, and then he went to the Chargers. So the Ravens went and got themselves the Jermont Jones from the Titans. That was a pretty good pickup. I saw a lot of his tape. He was pretty good. The Eagles, of course, they're always busy. That's pretty much it. Those are like your big trades. I mean, there was a lot of trades in the deadline, but the blockbusters are really the ones that I talked about on today's show. So that is going to wrap things up. I hope you guys enjoyed. I had a good time talking with you guys as always. I'm going to be back with you on Friday to talk about the upcoming games in the schedule, getting ready for week 10 of the NFL. The Cowboys are on a bye. Absolute, I won't say kind of depression because I'm kind of excited to see some Quinnen Williams. I'm ready to see what he looks like with Dallas and Logan Wilson, of course. Overshawn's going to be back against the Raiders, and I'm ready to see Siobhan Revel play, even though they're going to be on a pitch count. But I'm just ready to see them play. So I don't have the Cowboys. They don't upset me this week, so maybe that might be a good thing. The slate's isn't really that great this week. So, I think the 1 o'clock window is pretty good. 4 o'clock window sucks. But Monday night and Sunday night is pretty good. So, that is my thoughts going into week 9. Going to have my picks of the week. I didn't get to have them last week, so we're going to have them this week. And maybe some other stories that come out about trade deadline. Maybe something else might be happening. But that is all I have for today's show. That is my reaction to the trade deadline, and that was my reaction to the Cowboys game on Monday night. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you all enjoyed. Do not hesitate to hit the like button and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share it to your friends and family if you enjoy and they think they might enjoy my podcast, because I am a good analysis and I'm going to be the future in the sports broadcasting industry. I'm having too much fun today. Y'all don't know how much I enjoy talking on this microphone. One day I'm going to have a mass audience. I'm going to have like, I'm gonna manifest it, you know. I'm gonna have like 1,000 viewers come next year. Why not? But I thank you all for joining me today, and I will see you in not next week's show, but I'll see you guys in the next show. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.
It's not a game.